There are two major misconceptions when it comes to gifting money to kids. On one end of the spectrum, people think that they can give anything they want. They can pay for a back deck, they can pay for a wedding, or even a renovation on a whole house if they just pay the contractor directly. That's not true. On the other end of the spectrum, some people think that if they just give a little too much, that the IRS is going to come after them and they're going to have to pay some big tax bill. And that's also not true if it's done right. In this discussion, I'm going to talk about the major ways that you can pass money to the next generation or just gift to kids throughout your lifetime, and how you can even systematically gift to kids in order to give them a lot of money over time. One of the questions we typically ask clients is it more important for your kids to get the money at the end of your life, or is it more important for you to see them enjoy that wealth while you're living so that they can benefit from the fruits of your labor during your lifetime? This could be by helping them with a down payment on a first home, or helping with grandkids' education, which is also an indirect way of helping out your kids. The first way of transferring wealth to the next generation is through what's called an annual gift exclusion. So this is $19,000 per year. But here's the trick. You can give $19,000 to anyone. You can give it to your brother, your best friend, your neighbor, but you can also give it to your child's spouse. So you can gift $19,000 to your child. You can give $19,000 to their spouse. And your spouse, if you're married, can also double up. They can give $19,000 to your child and their spouse. So you can give $38,000 in 2 checks to your child and their spouse, and your spouse can give $38,000 to your child and their spouse, also in 2 checks. So it's always better to keep the lines clean and separate out each gift if you plan to maximize it every year. It's also easier for you to keep track as well. Now, what if they have children as well? Let's say, for sake of example, that they have 3 children and you and your spouse can give $19,000 to each of those 3 children. That's $38,000 times 3. And add that to the $76,000 that you gave to your child and their spouse, and that's $190,000 that you're gifting to your child's family all at once. And it's all under the annual gift exclusion, so you don't pay any tax. Now, if estate taxes are a concern for you, this is a great way of getting money out of your estate. Of course, right now, the total lifetime exemption for estate tax is $15 million per spouse. So for most people, estate tax is not an issue, though not reporting annual gifts or lifetime gifts that exceed that annual gift exclusion, that can result in a tax penalty. So let's talk about that. How do you report an annual gift that goes over that annual gift exclusion? So let's simplify it for a second and say that you're single and your child is single. So there's no spouses in this equation. So you were going to give them an annual gift of $19,000, but they needed $119,000. So you gave it to them all at once. Now you're jumping into another area, but it doesn't trigger a tax consequence for you as long as you report it properly. You will need to make sure that you notify your CPA so that they can file what's called a Form 709, also known as a gift tax return. More on this in a second. So you have something available to you called the lifetime estate exemption. And starting in 2026, this is going to be $15 million per spouse, $30 million if you're married, that you can transfer from one generation to the next, either during your lifetime or at the end of your life, and you pay no additional taxes in order to make that transfer. So if you were to give $119,000 instead of $19,000, then you are required to file a gift tax return, and you will report that you used up $100,000 of the $15 million. So you'll be starting the next year with $14,900,000 of total lifetime exemption, which is still a lot of room to run, but typical best practice is to not dig into your lifetime exemption because of the chance that your assets could grow and the possibility that the exemption could be decreased. The bottom line is it's important to file Form 709 in the event that you were to gift more than your annual gift exclusion. And you should always check with your CPA or qualified attorney whenever you're doing any kind of tax or estate strategy. All right, let's talk about other ways that you can gift over and above the $19,000 without having to file a gift return or pay any additional taxes. So sometimes you might have already given them the $19,000, but you need to help them out in other ways. So you could pay medical expenses directly to the provider, either a hospital or a medical practice, and it doesn't go against your annual gift. It also doesn't go against your lifetime exemption. So you can also pay education expenses directly to the school. You could pay directly to a private school or directly to a college. And if you really want to maximize the money that you're giving to your children, you don't want to give them money to pay for school. You want to pay the school directly, pay the $15,000 tuition directly to the school for your grandchild, and then gift $19,000 or $38,000 if they're married, or $76,000 if you're married as well, directly to your child and their spouse. All right, next let's talk about 529 plans. And there's a big misconception with 529 plans because a lot of people just think they're small potatoes and they shouldn't be factored into your overall giving strategy or even your estate planning strategy. Fact is that 529 plans follow the same type of gifting rules for an individual, but they have an additional feature that makes them even more powerful. So if you were to do something called superfunding a 529 plan, you could give 5 years worth of gifts, that's $95,000 in one fell swoop, into that 529 plan. If you did it the day they were born, that could grow quite a bit by the time they turned 18. This takes up your gifting to that grandchild for the next 5 years, but you can still gift to your child and their spouse each year. Now, let's say you're married. You can multiply that number by 2. So you and your spouse can together give $190,000 in 2025 into a 529 plan, or in 2026 if you don't do it in 2025. And that's going to cover your gifting to that grandchild for the next 5 years. Now, to get granular for a second, you also have to live for that entire 5-year period in order for the total superfunding to be included as annual gifts and not be included in your estate. So if you die in year 4 of that superfunding period, 1 year's worth of contributions to that 529 plan or 1 year's worth of gifts will be pulled back into your estate. Okay, let's change gears for a second and talk about bigger gifts. Let's say they have a house that they want to buy and you're trying to help them out either with a mortgage or on a down payment for the house. You can loan them that money based on what's called the applicable federal rate. So that's the lowest rate that the IRS allows you to loan money from one person to any other person without it being considered a gift. So you have to charge something or else the IRS is just going to say it's a gift. You could paper it yourself or you could use an attorney to write up the documents. But the more documented it is, the more solid the loan is. In other words, the less it could potentially be scrutinized by the IRS. If you have a payment structure that you adhere to, and the house is pledged as collateral for the loan, and you're charging 110% or 120% of the applicable federal rate, it's hard for anybody to come back and say that's not a loan, it's a gift. Now, it's important that your child actually pay the interest. It could be interest only for 10 years or amortized over 30 years, like a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. They must make these payments or else it could be construed as a gift in the event you were audited. So the advantages from a wealth transfer standpoint is that instead of them going out and getting a 7% mortgage, you might be able to give them a 4.5% mortgage or whatever the applicable federal rate is at that time. And on top of that, you could still give them annual gifts each and every year and pay for their kids' education and pay for medical expenses directly if you'd like to. Now, here's where people get tripped up is that they give money for the house and they don't report it. Or they pay a contractor directly for that back deck on their child's house. Even though you're paying the contractor directly, it's not technically a gray area. It's pretty black and white. If it's going to be for the benefit of the child, then the IRS says it's considered a gift, or it should go toward your lifetime exemption, and you just file a Form 709, a gift tax return. So now getting into a bit of a gray area, you might say that a wedding for your child or your grandchild is technically for you too, right? Because you get the benefit of the experience and maybe you said, I want a big wedding even though my child doesn't want a big wedding or my grandchild doesn't want a big wedding. So I'm going to pay for it. But what's not a gray area is how the money flows. So always check with your CPA when planning these types of events, because if you just write your child or grandchild a $100,000 check and say, plan a big wedding, go ahead, that's technically a gift. So in conclusion, if you want to give them $150,000 and file a gift return, go right ahead. The IRS doesn't care and it doesn't cost you anything. It just goes against your $15 million lifetime exemption. But it's just important that you make sure you document it properly so that you don't have to pay any penalties. And that annual gift exclusion, you can make that each and every year to each person in your family. For any kind of tax strategy or how to go about reporting these things properly, make sure you check with your CPA, or for estate matters, make sure you check with a qualified estate attorney. Thanks for watching today.